Committee of Parliament. Nana, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Thank you. Good friend and brother Omar.
Good evening to you, and good friend who has abandoned
me.
No,
well. How are you doing too?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you receiving this news of a shutting down of our embassy in Washington D.C.? It sounds bizarre.
Omar, thank you very much. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and like I said, I am greeting your listeners and your cherished viewers. Omar, we in principle support the minister. In principle, supports the government, that if there is anyone within our public sector, within our diplomatic environment, within our missions, that is doing something untoward, perpetuating illegalities or fraud, the system must deal with that person. The system must deal with those persons. So we support the decision and the action. What we found, or what has left us so dumbfounded, is a few details that we want to clarify. Number one, it is clear that our missions do not only do visa issuing or passport processing. No, our embassies go beyond that. The embassies, we have trade attaches, we have scholarships, we have a lot of diplomatic and strategic dialogues and all that. In fact, the embassy represents. So you cannot come out to say that you've shut down an embassy, not any embassy, Washington, because of visa or passport issues, which is one aspect or the consulate part of the mission or the embassy. We disagree. Why do you do that? There couldn't have been any way. No.
The only way is to shut down and fix it and then reopen it.
No, you see, you can fix it without shutting it down. Like I told you, I just told you that the embassy do not. It is like you are telling me that the whole your station, the network, the brand name, the bigger umbrella. You're telling me that if one of your areas is having a problem or there's a challenge, you shut down the entire system because you want to fix one of them.
What if you notice that it's a cancer that is spreading, and so the best way to cut it is to shut it down and then cut it off or remove it, and then you come back online?
Then you are killing the entire living organism.
Don't forget that the minister said this is something that has been in operation for 5 years. That's a long time.
You see, let me give you an example, Mario. Let me give you an example. When there was a time, I don't want to politicize this, and I do not like politicizing international and diplomatic matters. When there was a certain time where when there is a delegation, a government travel, you see a leader of delegation taking a visa for a number of people. They travel and then he leaves a few of them there and comes back to Ghana. It became one issue that the entire embassies blacklisted Ghana. When a different government took over, what was done? There was a meeting called to engage all the ambassadors and tell them, let us agree on these modalities. When people are traveling, the leader of delegation must sign an undertaking. The leader of delegation must give an sureties. The leader of delegation must ensure that the delegation comes back, and the delegation must sign at the embassy that they have reported back. These were internal measures. Umaru and Ghanaians didn't know that this was the imagery of Ghana outside there. But now what you are putting out is giving Ghana a certain publication and publicity that we could have averted. That is why I keep saying, and I'm saying that, look, you can do this with the Ministry of Foreign, Lands and Natural Resources. You can do this with communication. You can do this with any other ministry. But the foreign ministry, that is why it is attached to it that this ministry is diplomatic. It's diplomacy. That is for you require a certain tactfulness and a certain discussion. But we are not against the decision to cleanse the system. We are not against the decision to make sure that things are right and Ghanaians are served well. But what we are saying is that in doing so, do not give us a bad publicity. Today, everybody across the country is discussing Ghana. Why? Because we have shut down our embassy because of visa fraud. That is the image. You think that the Americans will trust us? You think that other missions will be comfortable dealing with us? when we are telling them that we couldn't deal with the internal controls. That is the point we are making here.
I know that.
Agree with the minister.
I know that government is a continuum, but locally it would be eggs in your face that you had this Fred Quatin person in the employ of the embassy since 2017 when you were in government, and this person has been engaging in, if we should go by what the minister's findings are, has been engaging in fraud. Just let me land with a question.
Okay.
And you failed to prune him, and now he possibly has grown so many branches that is difficult to deal with. And so the minister says the situation must be fixed. It doesn't matter whose ox is gored, and that's what he's doing. So perhaps they would see us, those people you are worried about, they will see us as a no-nonsense. Perhaps they will say that this new government is a no-nonsense government.
You see, like I told you, and I've given you a classical example, that you see the diplomatic environment, excuse my language, and forgive me if I don't use my words rightly, they are much more smarter than some of these things, I am not, maybe, you see, it will be difficult for you to tell me that the SWAL administration was aware of the happenings and allowed the happenings to continue.
That would be it would be a bigger problem if the SWAL administration was not aware. That's even a bigger problem, don't you think?
So now there is a new government, and the new government has been able to identify these things. Kudos to the government. The government has our support to deal with the matter. We are not against the government dealing with the matter. No, let that impression not be created. No. Look, if the person has to be jailed, if there are corroborators that have to be jailed, we support it. Those corroborators must be jailed. Even if they have to extend it to their generations and whatever, it must be done. Agree. Government, yes, one or two people might do some things in the government that we all know. Even this kind of government, one or two things must go on that they might not see, and somebody else would see. What is important is that we deal with it, and we support the decision to deal with it. Reservations with is that in dealing with this very sensitive matter of diplomatic nature, you must be tactful. That is all. That is all. And if somebody thinks that, oh well, we are not happy about this thing, I disagree. I am one key advocate that is advocating that the charges and the fees for the visa for our diasporans, the charges for passport is way expensive. It is on record. When the minister was in parliament, I raised it. I mentioned it when we are approving the budget for the ministry. I raised it. That look, the charges for the visas and the passports for diasporans are expensive. Let's look at it. So let it not be said or seen or assume that we are against these things. No, we are only saying that we could have waking up to another message or news. The minister could have sent an envoy straight to Washington with every details there. Pick up the perpetrators, move them back to Ghana, give them out to the various ministries or embassy agencies that are supposed to deal with such crimes, and then before you are even going, you set up a new team to go on and take over, and then you cleanse the system, you put up your new system that you believe that the system works better.
So you are essentially promoting a hush affair where crime has been discovered, and that because we do not want to look bad in the eyes of the international community, if we discover that there was a syndicate engaging in crime or fraud at our embassy at an important country and an important city like Washington, D.C., let's hush it. Let's bring them back home and deal with them here and replace them quickly. Not tell anybody. That's your school of thought.
Do not assume that me saying bringing them back home means that I do not want us to deal with the matter. No, I've told you.
But you don't want us to deal with it publicly. That's your quarrel.
You see, I am telling you that there are evidence to the fact that those issues that come up publicly do not even end up the way we want them. And there are lots of examples that we come out to put. But this one have done this. These are crime. These are corruption. The next 2-3 days, it's dead and gone. So
at least it is uncovered. We know about it.
So what will happen to you when you know about it? And then
for instance, we know that when there's a tournament, a football tournament, the issue of visa acquisition and procurement is a subject of scandals. And so in the future, when we are going to a tournament like the one that is going to happen in the US, we would all be guided by the fact that when we went to Australia, this is what happens. And so let's be guided. And so in the future, we would also say that let's keep an eye on all our embassies.
You do not shut down the entire country because there is a visa problem. That is the point I'm making to you. That deal with the matters, let the issues be there, but do not shut down an entire country, because the embassies out there are the embodiment of the country out there. So you shut down the entire country because you have discovered fraudulent matters or fraudulent issues within the consulate part of your embassy. So you shut down the entire country. That is what we feel, that there could have been some better engagement to deal with this thing, to make sure that these things are done without necessarily putting out a bad imagery about the country. That's all. So if you think that, that is not okay for you, you want us to go and do that is fine. But from my diplomatic experience, from what I've learned, from what I've read, and all this, you hardly do these things yourself.
Thank you.
Maybe it is only for propaganda, it is only for self-aggrandizement, you want people to see you are working, that's fine.
Or for expose purposes.
No, for expose purposes, like we have been doing. Then they are fine, you can do that. But don't forget that it has a long-lasting ramification on the image of the country.
Now let me ask you one question before you go. Okay. So, perceived corruption in the judiciary, perceived corruption in the police service. Anas goes undercover, brings out a big expose. The whole world gets to know that, Sana, this is what happens in our judiciary, this is what happens in our Ghana, in our football, this is what happens in our police service. If you had your way, Anas's videos should not go to they should not go to town, right? It should be dealt with privately.
I am not saying that. I'm telling you that these issues you are looking at them differently. This is more or less a diplomatic matter. I'm saying that first and foremost, you do not close the entire embassy down because you have an expose to show. No, that is fair. So let that be on record. Number two, I am saying that from my experience and from what I've seen and from the country we live in, much more than we have seen, a lot of the razzmatazz don't give us results. So what do we gain by doing all these things and not getting the desired result? I agree, you want to do the expose, then go ahead and do the expose, but open the embassies. Now, have you averted your minds to the cost of closing the embassies? Have you averted your mind to all the things, the inconveniences that it is going to cost to the Ghanaian and to the international public? That is all we are saying. We can go ahead and do the exposés. That is what we enjoy. That's fine.
Very well. Thank you.
Let the embassy work.
Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you.
That's Honorable Nana Asafo-Adjei. He's an NPP Member of Parliament for Bosume Frehun. He's a Deputy Ranking Member on the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament. This is Eyewitness News on 90.